Once I left uni, I felt a little bit dropped and sort of wanted to organise a project that brought other emerging artists from across the country together to one place to kind of work through between us how to make a living out of the arts. So I made this residency, which invited 20 emerging artists from across the UK to come and spend a week in Briarfield Mill, which is a huge, like 7-acre derelict mill. People from right down St Ives at the tip of Cornwall, people from France, and spend the week like living together, just kind of sharing ideas, building work together.
I suppose the scary thing initially was that I wasn't entirely sure what I was getting myself in for. But the potential of collaboration with people that you don't know is kind of a terrifying thing to arrive to.
This is the first kind of project that I've done that's just myself, and I've, got on a train and travelled 4 hours away from my home, and I've come to this new place, to live in this place with people I don't know, and I've never done anything like that before, but I think it's gonna really give me some confidence in myself as well as in my own ideas and my practice.
I was really excited because I didn't know what to expect. From the first moment I arrived, I felt really welcomed, and I felt like that we were sharing something really meaningful.
The fact that no one knew each other is really good, because it means you're almost just, when we first met each other, it's like Big Brother, you're just sort of rocking and say, "How are you from? What's your name?"
When I got here, I immediately felt very comfortable, and talking to everyone's been really easy.
Really nice to find out that everyone is really warm and open and welcoming, and that it's really easy to talk about our own practices here, which you don't always get, among friends.
I kind of wanted to find a way to network anyway. It came at a really good point of my practice, and also the way that sort of what I wanted out of the artists that were coming to sort of like enter a new space and explore it and play with the space. That's what I do anyway, so I thought maybe I could play somewhere new that I've never been. So it's a bit of an adventure, a bit of an excuse to play for an entire week and to meet new people.
The idea to come in and do just really quick, powerful work within a week, and just making whatever in a week was really appealing.
It was really nice when Ellie said today, she said, "Oh, you don't worry about outcomes," because I think it's really easy to get a bit fixated on, having to do something good that people will judge you well by.
The idea of taking that amount of time to be surrounded by other like-minded people and focus on my practice really appealed to me. There seemed to be an emphasis on sort of making art viable.
It's been quite intense so far. Starting off at the walk sort of really, it was quite refreshing in a way, because you just sort of directly get stuck into something that is quite challenging. It isn't actually challenging, but it seems challenging at the time. So then you have this brand new group of people that you have to sort of climb a mountain with, actually climb a mountain with. And then, so that was quite intense, but sort of having experienced that together is quite nice.
The walk was really good, really rainy, not gonna lie. No, but it was really good actually, and I think it was a really great bonding experience for everyone there. Like, we all kind of turned up and no one really knew each other or knew what was going on, but then by the time we've hiked up this mountain and come back down again, we were all kind of like the best of friends already, so I think that was really, really important.
And just like a nice different way to meet people as well, without having any arty pretense about any of it, which I liked.
I like the idea that I'm pushing myself to get to know other people and to get really into this intense experience, because we're not just sharing conversation or discussions, but it's like sharing like daily lives and daily experience in this kind of survival environment.
Each day is kind of centred around a different topic, sort of things that through talking to other artists I've sort of decided are what emerging artists need to know to start making a living as an artist. So each day we'll arrive at Briarfield Mill, we're going to have a different speaker come and talk to us, and then the rest of the day Everyone's going to be free to kind of pretty much explore the mill and explore Briarfield, think what projects they want to do, come up with anyone they want to collaborate with and make stuff.
We've done a lot of talking, which has been quite nice and quite different, because if you're making work at our sort of stage, I think you spend a lot of time in your own space and in your own head. So this sort of talking has been quite intense, but it's been definitely very productive, and I think that's what I've enjoyed the most. And the mill, it kind of represents that as well, because it's so huge and overwhelming.
The mill, which we went to today, is huge, so big. I mean, I knew it was going to be big, I didn't think it'd be that big.
The mill is insane. It's literally exactly what I was looking for. That's partly why I applied as well for the Crash 2016. The industrial look of the mill really fits my work.
Well, from my point of view, the space is really significant because, you know, dance is inherently occupying a space, so it was nice to find inspiration in the mill, and it's a very unique place to dance or to produce choreography. I start just by doing very habitual movements, stuff that I always come back to that I would do in a studio, but in this space I guess I started to get a bit more experimental with my environment. So I think I started with testing the floor to see how slippery or how grippy my shoes were on it, with some spins and sort of rounding my leg. The space is really feeding into what I was doing. That's when it started raining, and so there was this drip happening just down here, and also the sound was feeding into what I was doing as well, and I started jumping a lot and trying to do more intricate footwork and fingers and smaller movements like raindrops, I guess. And then that's when I stacked it and just slipped in the mud, and where it was at that point when the drip kind of stopped or kind of slowed down, and you know, I sort of read into that. It's as if the building was asking me if I was all right. And you know, quickly learned that I have to be really careful in here. Sort of very, very aware that this place has a lot of power and can feed back into me. You know, how I move, it can sort of move me as well.
One thing I've learnt this week is the sort of beauty of collaborating with not just visual artists, but with other creatives, I think. So we had performers, dancers, members of the public, the sort of site manager and co. So I think that's what I've definitely learnt, that it's not just visual artists to collaborate with, it's pretty much everyone's brilliant.
So this is an interactive sculpture, which I want you to all come and be invited to play with it, how you feel fit. But maybe take in mind your practices or what you naturally respond to, because I sort of respond to embroidery, so that's what I've been doing. And maybe think about colour, but other than that, it's quite open. So it's an interactive piece which I might develop into workshops in the future. I wanted to sort of like make it a bit site-specific to the mill, and so what I noticed was the colours when I came from like bright building yard materials, and so I wanted to bring them out into a space and make people notice them and interact, but invite them to interact how they feel natural. I loved that you was making sound. So personally I respond to material and touch, so I wanted to add to that. But then people have been like playing with sound, which I would have thought of. So. And then also sort of like responding to each other in the space. So if somebody moves something, they might want to move it a different way.
The work that I'm trying to make is kind of like, because I'm not really working with materials, it's not like, it's quite like conceptually driven, and so it's hard to work on like and feel like you're doing something, and obviously there's like other financial like limitations of the work as well. It's not something physical that like can be sold or like you can send somewhere to be exhibited, like you have to be there. And yeah, I think like the kind of main thing holding me back is quite a lot of my own kind of, is that, and also my own kind of like principles about things, which I agree with, but are quite limiting at this stage, and maybe I can't afford to have them at this moment in time. Yeah. I've called it Puddle Piece, and it involves bottling up 2 different puddles, one in the Briarfield Mill, one in the town centre, and then basically swapping the liquid in those 2 puddles. Well, the project basically involved identifying like puddles, like kind of puddle-like puddles, if you know what I mean, like as opposed to just bits of water on the ground, things that kind of look like classic puddles. So I was kind of walking around the town trying to scout out different ones, and then doing the same in the mill. The initial idea was tied in with this whole like thing I've been working on to do with kind of uncanny things, so like things which are the same but not. I've also done like cleaning performances in the past, and like so I was something I'm quite comfortable with, just like hands and knees and just like wearing overalls and whatnot. It's the kind of the temporary nature of water and that sort of thing, things that you don't tend to pay a huge amount of attention to. And I think like in the context of the mill and the town, having to actually sponge up that puddle in the town centre as a kind of performance in and of itself, that could be quite a nice way of making that connection in my head.
When I first came to the building, I was very much struck by this walkway, this footbridge, which takes you on the journey into the building, and how this was very much part of people's lives when the building was an active working place and everyone came down from the town in droves and back again. I was thinking about the population of the town of Briarfield and who's there and what they might want on their bridge. And today, while I was putting up some of the little miniatures and the balloons, everyone who walked across the bridge had an opinion about that, which was great. So I just decided to have a few ideas, put a few ideas together on the fence, and then ask some questions at the end so people could think about it a little bit, so that in the future when I come back, if I go into a school or into any of the shops up and down the street, I might say, did you see that what was on the bridge? Did you have an opinion about that? What would you like to commemorate? What could the bridge be? You know, what would you like to see on the bridge?
I came up with this idea of using the binoculars, doing something from far away, so the only way you'd be able to see it is through them. And I've never thought of anything. I've never thought of anything that could actually be looked at through the binoculars. Nothing's ever seemed appropriate. But then seeing Alice's work at the beginning of the week and talking to her about how she worked made me think that maybe that could work really well, with her doing some dance on the other end. So yeah, we basically choreographed the piece over like 4 days, like slowly but surely. And yeah, it was a really interesting experience, I suppose. It's taught me a lot about the piece, and like there are things now that I really realise need to be changed to make it work as best as it can. But yeah, on the whole, yeah, I'm really happy with the work, and Alice did a great job, and it was, yeah. Fascinating.
I was the subject of a line of vision from binoculars from afar. We choreographed a routine for me to do on loop. Quite ridiculous, nonsensical movement given the room that I was in, the derelict mill room. It's interesting to have conversations with the other artists to sort of gauge how familiar they are with dance and whether or not it's sort of its own kind of separate thing, you know, in artistic discussion.
There's lots of different artists here. You know, we've got like dancers and we've got performance artists as well. You know, people who I'd never ever encounter in the line of work that I do normally.
It has been really intense because I've got so much ideas and I think that I can finally do it this week. I can feel that I'm really free to do something.
I feel that artists need to do other things as well, and I don't mean for money necessarily, but as part of society.
Once you've left university, you haven't really got a community unless you have a studio, and then you have to have money to have a studio. And
I wish that this kind of thing would lead to like a bigger experience maybe.
And I'm hoping that what develops is what's developed from the other residencies I've done and also from my MA course, in that you do keep in touch with people and you do make work with them in the future.
It's amazing really that none of us knew each other at all and we had no really idea what we were going to do here. So to come here in a week and meet everybody, get on really well, which is a real shocker, 20 artists in one room, and produce a really successful show and some really nice work. I think it's been amazing actually.
I have had probably one of the best weeks of my life being at Crash. I've met some incredible people. I've learned things about other artistic styles I didn't know. I've learned things about my own artistic styles I didn't know before, and I've completely pushed myself out of my comfort zone and done things that I didn't think were possible for me as an artist.
I learned a lot about my practice, I learned about my comfort zone, and that I've gone out of it, but actually I'm quite good at what I make in it, and that's okay.
Working with fire extinguishers and like being covered in paint and dance in an old mill and all these kind of exciting things that I wasn't imagining that I was going to do.
Kind of really challenging, and by being challenging myself, my practice and my thoughts.
One thing I've learnt this week is to just get out there and do it. Don't wait for perhaps the right situation. Don't wait for things to come to you. Really go out there and make things happen.
Learn that I don't have to be in London to make a difference as an artist.
I have learnt that it is a mistake to pigeonhole yourself and your interests and your abilities and what you can and can't do.
I learned that collaborate with other people is fun and is inspiring.
One thing I've learned this week is that I shouldn't define my practice by what I've done in the past, and that there's a lot more possibility.
The week at Cross has been pretty intense actually. It seemed as though we were sort of living together and working together with 20 artists all continuously. It's been absolutely wonderful, such a learning experience, because I think everyone that was involved has such a different practice, such a different way of thinking.
So yeah, I think just to be free and just make whatever, it doesn't matter, and do it, that's another thing, do it.